Hey guys, this is Chris and Kevin from BitCago, back again today to talk about another series entry for Ethos. Specifically talking today about the Bedrock API.
Yeah, so the Bedrock API is an exciting technology from Ethos. So what they're doing is they're providing developers essentially with tools to access their own services as well as market data to use in other apps, essentially. So if you're a developer out there looking to create the next great, financial application within the crypto space, you're going to want an easy way to access financial data, more than likely. And Ethos is going to provide a real slick way to do that, essentially. So the Ethos Bedrock is essentially the foundation for all of Ethos's upcoming apps. And again, we're not sure if there's multiple apps coming from Ethos or just one mega app, but it's going to be the foundation of whatever they release, essentially. So Ethos's brand new universal wallet application that's going to be coming out soon is actually going to be built on top of the Bedrock API. And this offers some credibility to the API. It's going to show that the API itself is very usable and it scales well, hopefully free of bugs, things of that nature. And it should prove that Ethos is also committed to the API as well in the long term. Because as developers, obviously we want to create great applications around these different services, and we want to make sure that the APIs stay up to date and also evolve to offer new services and new functionality to whatever wants to be built next, essentially. And in general, the Bedrock API is going to be the place where the Ethos token gets a ton of its usage and really creates a lot of its value.
Yeah, and of course from an individual user aspect, that's huge because we see a lot of different exchanges out there introducing their own tokens or coins, and some of them are really taking off, and other ones maybe not so much. And Ethos is looking at many different ways utilizing this API besides just people accessing trading data and being able to pay with fees in those different cryptocurrencies developed by the exchanges. How can they build value behind their token? And there's some really interesting things that we're going to go into today that show you that it's included in every step along the way. So even from an individual user standpoint, there's a lot of value in knowing where their roadmap is taking them from the development side of their platform.
Right. Yeah, so with the Bedrock API, they're very focused on making sure that the service itself is very scalable, can service really high demand, really high usage. And this is extremely important because we see time and time again within the crypto community right now that services continue to go down. And in a lot of times it's in the worst possible spots, the worst possible moments. So Ethos is very committed to using really the latest and greatest technologies in the cloud world and from the software side, which as a software developer myself gives me a lot of hope and gives me a lot of promise around the entire service in general. I'm very excited about that, and it's really nice to see them committed to new technologies that I think, and a lot of the community thinks, is really going to stand the test of time and be the next wave of software within cloud.
Yeah, scalability is a big key there because we saw a lot of issues with that with Coinbase and some of the other exchanges. We mentioned it in another video that we have about Ethos, that when they close these doors on their user base, it makes people leery about using them in the future, and it gives it a much more difficult level of interaction to just being able to go in and do what you want to do when the time is right. When you see these big fluctuations in coins you want to invest in and the service can't handle the amount of traffic that it's receiving, that's a huge problem. And Ethos is including that in their whole development platform, and especially with bringing that to other developers and involving people from outside sources, it's really important to make sure that with the enormous amount of different services they want to bring in, that it can handle it.
Right. Yeah, so the Ethos Bedrock API is going to have a couple foundational pieces of their API. The first one is the Ethos Wallet Service, and that's really a way to interact with the wallets that Ethos will be creating Again, this is going to be the underlying technology of the universal wallet application that Ethos will be releasing. So all of those universal wallets that are created in that app, there will be a way to interact with those. So if you're going to create an application that's going to interact with a crypto wallet, or potentially, again, like we said in one of our other videos, where Ethos is going to potentially end up in the traditional asset market as well, you're going to be able to have a way to interact with those wallets and understand what those assets are within those wallets to show to users, essentially. There's another big foundational service which is called Ethos Relay. Now this is going to be used to access the Ethos Liquidity Network. And again, we mentioned in another video, we talked a lot about what the Ethos Liquidity Network is, but essentially what you're going to be able to do through this API is you're going to be able to enter in orders into the order book that then the Ethos Liquidity Network will service out to other exchanges to be fulfilled. So if you're looking for a way to create a system where people can take what's in their wallets, and you're looking to either sell those assets or buy more of those assets, you're going to be able to do that through Ethos Relay. Thirdly, there's Ethos Fiat Gateway. So Ethos is talking about being a fiat gateway, so being a door into the crypto market, essentially, from your current fiat currency. And what they're going to allow here is they're going to allow, again, other app developers to have a way to accept fiat as payment for assets, if you will. And one of the big things around the fiat gateway is that there's a lot of problems around KYC and AML, so know your customer, and anti-money laundering. And Ethos is doing a lot to set up their legal structure around those areas. And it's still yet to be determined exactly what that's going to mean for developers who want to use this service. But it could mean that it makes it easier for them to introduce fiat gateways, essentially. So other developers may not have to go through as many legal hurdles. That's slight speculation. It's hard to know for sure. But it could be one of the things that they do. They will definitely require verification, whether that's on the developer side or the user side that's doing it, or both. But they should provide an easy way to be a new fiat door into the system. And then lastly, there's the Ethos Broadcast. And the Ethos Broadcast is essentially a way to look at historical market data and potentially even price predictions. So we did mention in one of our other videos, we talked a lot about the Ethos social network, which is going to be a huge component of Ethos. It's something they're really excited about, and hopefully we'll be able to see that potentially at the end of this year or into 2019. But using this broadcast service, you're going to have a quick way to go out and you're going to be able to grab market data of a lot of coins, which right now the market data for coins is very fragmented. It's hard. It's really hard to find all of that data. So Ethos is going to provide kind of a one-stop shop for you to go get that data and provide your users and your customers a way to see that. And again, these Ethos services are going to be powered by the Ethos token. So the developers themselves are going to need Ethos tokens to pay for the use of these services. And it's going to work very similar to Amazon Web Services, which if you're not familiar with that, that's okay. The way that Amazon Web Services works is that you basically pay as you go. So they have a ton of different services, much like Ethos is laying out here with their 4. But Amazon has hundreds of these. And essentially what they allow you to do is they allow you to pick and choose which ones you want to use. And essentially they have usage rates. And depending upon where you fall in the tiers, you pay X amount of money for using that service. So it's really exciting to see that Ethos is providing a way for other developers to tap into their data and all of their systems. And it's really going to provide maybe the biggest way for the Ethos token to really gain its value.
Yeah, I mean, that really wraps up where value comes from both angles. because everybody wants to see their investments grow, and with Ethos offering all this value added into their own token, not only is that a platform you can go to get all these different types of cryptocurrencies, but you can feel comfortable investing back into where you're getting it from. And there's so much to be said about how they're incorporating all these cryptocurrencies, their own token, and fiat. And anybody who's involved with cryptocurrency from a trading standpoint right now knows how difficult it is just to get your current currency of wherever you're at into a crypto market. And there's so little opportunity to do that. And sometimes, like we mentioned before, it's just not possible during those high influx periods of people getting into the market. And so every step along the way, all four of those pillars that we talked about today really build value and why Ethos is servicing so many different problems that we're faced with right now. And there's one other big point that they put at the end of their Bedrock information in the white paper. It talks about how they want to take all this and incorporate it and scale it to handle enterprise services as well. And there's a few different places out there that are doing it right now to get that big business involvement with cryptocurrency. And Ethos is reserving some services to be able to put towards that as well. There's not as much information about it in there, but just the idea of these large investment platforms getting involved with them continues to ride out that price increase on the Ethos token, since we've talked about how it's involved at every stage of this entire API. So it's really exciting to see where they're headed with everything. And knowing it from our other video about customer usage of Ethos and seeing how it works from a development standpoint in the API shows you that the ideas cross both sides of the argument, so that you don't just see everything pushed in front of the user side. You see that it's also incorporated in the development platform, which continues that trust that they're building, so that you don't have any holes of where all this falls apart.
Exactly. Yeah, there's going to be multiple ways to use the Ethos token, not only from the customer standpoint, whether that be through the social network and how predictions and their whole idea of kind of asking and answering questions, or even on the customer side, there's going to be the ability to use the Ethos token to unlock more advanced services, if you will. So whether that's diversification of your portfolio or other things, but also seeing it from the development standpoint and kind of the behind-the-scenes economy, if you will. So it's really exciting to see what's in store for the Ethos platform in general, but also to see where the value of the Ethos token goes. So anyways, that's it for this video on the Ethos Bedrock. Again, be sure to watch our other video on Ethos. We talk a lot about the social platform as well as the liquidity network. And be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks.